And to help us get robust perspectives on that is the former Chief of Training and Operations of the Nigerian Army, retired Lieutenant General Lamidi Adeosun. All right, General. In 2014, the Army under your care used the Russian-made T-72 main battle tank. How crucial was that weapon of war to the successes you recorded back then?
Thank you very much. I will call that armor tank, the equipment, I'll call it a game changer. Why? The tanks that we had before the introduction of T-72 tank, even if they were good, they were already old, and getting spare parts for them was very, very difficult. Even those that were not used, most of the hoses and rubbers and few connections were already very, very bad, and we couldn't get solution. So using them was very difficult because as at then, it was not just an asymmetric warfare. Boko Haram was really doing normal military operation, and we needed all those equipment. Otherwise, they were using our own tanks in our barracks to confront us. There were both small and big tanks that were available within those barracks. So we needed all those things to be able to take on them effectively. And before I continue, especially with T-72 tank, I want to also remember that very gallant veteran, may he so continue to rest in peace, Colonel Abu Ali. He was actually the commander of all the tanks as at then. In fact, anywhere we want to use elements of T-72 tanks and the crew, Abu Ali was just the answer all over the theater. And may he so continue to rest in peace. Though he paid the supreme price, but he should be immortalized and always be remembered. He worked very, very well with me, and I'm very, very sure what I'm talking about. So having said that, the T-72 was actually a game changer, and it assisted us to be able to knock off some of the heavy equipment that the insurgents, or call them adversaries, were using against the army as at then. And that gave us a very good edge and a very good opportunity to also embolden our troops to be good to go any direction we are ready to move.
I mean, you left the Army as the Chief of Training and Operations. What did those responsibilities entail?
Okay, maybe I'll have to, at this point, make that correction. I actually left the Army as Chief of Policy and Plans. After a stint as Chief of Training and Operations, I was promoted, and eventually I was moved to the Office of Chief of Policy and Plans at the Army Headquarters. That was where I was for about 2 years before my glorious retirement in January 2021. But as Chief of Training and Operations, I had responsibility to superintend over all the training of personnel, both officers and soldiers in the Army, as well as all the operations in the field. And that was a really very huge task. But along the line, I would say I've been privileged in the Army. I was a weapons instructor. I was a tactics instructor. In fact, instructional posting took about 6 years of my career in Jaji. So that put me in a very good stead. So in terms of operation, I was also lucky to have gained experience in many places. In Liberia, I was there. In Sierra Leone, I was there. Even in Congo, I was there during the troubles. So all these added experiences that really helped me in achieving some of the feats I achieved with all my officers and my troops through the grace of Almighty God. So as Chief of Training and Operations, I actually know exactly what is required to be able to continue to defeat the security challenges we have, both in the Northeast and those seeping into Northwest as at then.
All right, thank you very much, General, for sharing those stories with us. All right, so let's get to another core segment for tonight. Many people believe that the war against terror is taking too long. Let me ask you, why has it been difficult for us to decisively defeat the enemy?
Thank you. That's a very important question. The war on terror is not as simple as the war between two countries. And the level of sophistication in the world today makes most things along that line more prolonged and more difficult. But suffice to say that I think we need to really look in-house to improve on some of the things that we have been doing and that we are also doing. Yes, as Nigerians, I keep saying it, we must be very proud of ourselves, despite the fact that we have this myriad of challenges, that the military and security agencies are able to contain these people and prevent them from taking over Nigeria in general and taking over specific spaces they've earmarked for themselves at their own strategic level. I think it's something that Nigerians should be proud of their military, proud of their security agencies, and proud of themselves. But having said that, we want to advise that we should not look at these insurgency and security challenges as military duties alone. In fact, in situations like this, military aspect of this, which is called kinetic effort, is just about 25%. There are so many other lines that need to continue to improve on what they are doing. A lot has been done. We have so many policy documents. We have laws that have been reviewed to be able to undo terrorism and all this. But how well are we implementing those policy documents from all other lines is also what we need to really look back and review. So also, we know some of our serious challenges in the country, especially with the first provider of security, especially when it has to do with internal security. Over time, Nigerians, for whatever reasons, lost confidence in our police. It's most unfortunate. And that made the political leadership as a then to draw out the military, though it's part of the constitutional requirement, was supposed to be a swift intervention from the military, finish the job, go back in, allow the police to continue providing internal security and others, with the military waiting in the wings to support during any escalation that they couldn't handle. But unfortunately, that was not to be. We are still grappling with that, and you could see, apart from the challenges the police are having, we can also see that even the military component has started lapsing into some of these challenges. Some things that the soldiers are not supposed to be exposed to. Having stayed out for so long, it's already affecting them. We have been seeing some malfeasances that are not supposed to be seen with the military. Agreed, the internal mechanism are handling that, doing court martials, dealing with those that are really found culpable, up to them, not only dismissing, including jailing them if it's necessary, even some, depending on what, can be convicted for capital punishment. All those things are there. So when you look at it in totality and you look at our environment, you look at the corporate Nigeria, what are the things that are really not necessary for us to harp on so that we can maintain our unity. You see, those are the things that some, for whatever reasons, decide to put in the front burner. The issue of ethnicity, the issue of religion, the issue of community distrust. There's no trust among many Nigerians, even within the same community. So all these things in totality keep fanning the ember of problems, the ember of insecurity. And these are things that we really need to look into. Why the military continue to do the yeoman's job they are doing with all the security agencies, I think, like it has always been said from everywhere, the business of ending this insurgency is what every Nigerian will have to be directly and indirectly be involved. And why do I say this? Right from the community, right from the homes, the traditional rulers, the religious leaders, there's need for us to take security very, very seriously. Most of the people that are being recruited and are being used are Nigerians. They are from our various homes. What are we supposed to be doing that were doing for us, that were done for us by our own forefathers and parents that made us to be what we are today, that we are not doing? We should do a sort of soul searching from the homes down to all those facets that I've mentioned. Aside from that, we have policy document that has outlined what and what should be done by who, by what. We should go back into those. We have the National Counterterrorism Strategy launched in 2016 on behalf of the federal government by the Office of the National Security Advisor. Those documents encompasses almost everything that needed to be done, but the focus has been more on the military. Not taking it away from the military must win the war. But there are two elements to it. There is the war and there is the peace. The military continue to do what they need to do to win the war. But the other 75% that have to be done by all of us, the government, the governed, the non-governmental organizations, the civil societies, all of us have a stake. And until all of us put our hands on deck and know that this problem has been there and we need to solve it, and we make concerted effort individually and collectively, that is when we can really see to the end of these challenges that we're facing.
Right. General, we've seen noticeable progress in the Northeast, but there are threats in the North Central and the Northwest. What needs to be done to make those parts of our country safer?
You are saying we have seen what in the North Central and Northeast?
We've seen noticeable progress in the Northeast, but there are threats in the North Central and the Northwest. What needs to be done to make those parts of our country safer?
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. There are a lot that can be done, both on the military side, and I'm so happy that you mentioned that we have seen a lot of progress. If I can mention specific, in recent time, not quite long, we have so many people that have surrendered from the Northeast, about 98,000 plus of them. Some of them women, about 29,000 women. We have about 18,395 men, and the rest, a little above 50,000 children. If we have this coming out, it means the real insurgency and their and those that are supposed to take over from them, they are already coming out, and eventually we might see the light at the end of the tunnel in no distant time. But having said that, we have to give kudos to the government. We have to give kudos to those that have been in the forefront of military activities before and now for this success. So in the North Central and Northwest, majorly it is banditry. So also others and farmers conflict. Before, others and farmers conflict has always been there, but it got escalated a few years back because of so many reasons. We have to look at political solution while the military is doing its own. There should be political solution, and also the resurgence of in the North Central. For now, you can see, we all know, during the rainy season, especially after the planting has been done and crops have started blossoming and towards harvesting season, that is when the thing increased, or is usually on a high side. I think these are things that there has to be concerted effort for us to address the issue of others and farmers. And because of the degenerating situation, those that used to tend their cattle before and they are satisfied with it. In fact, I read it somewhere in somebody's research where he interviewed a repented bandit, and he said for him, or for a typical Fulani herder, having an AK-47 gives him more power, more authority, more confidence, and more money, because he can use the AK-47 to do whatever he wants to do, more than following his cows all over the place. He would rather prefer to even sell the cows to buy weapons. How did we get to this place? What are those things that led to this? Political intolerance, ethnicity, religious bigotry, and so many others. Then the issue of mineral resources, gold, diamond, and all what have you that are there. I think there's need for a more robust policy on how these things are to be annexed. One, not denying the locals, the so-called artisanal miners, not denying them the opportunity of employment and their little stipends, and also ensuring that there is a coordinated exploitation that will benefit the federal government and every citizen of this country, like it is done in the case of crude oil. If this is done, I want to believe there will be reduction in this problem of banditry in the Northwest. The North Central mostly has to do with others farmers. A lot of propositions have been made. In some states, there are even draconian laws that rather encourage others farmers' problem rather than solving. I think all these things will have to be looked into and reviewed to ensure that we have a mid-course where this problem can be minimized and both the others and the farmers can be happy and be able to ply their trade without one unnecessarily interfering with the other.
Now, the president has promised to tackle insecurity head-on. He has met with the service chiefs and toured the National Counterterrorism Center, which many analysts have applauded. What do you make of his approach so far?
Sincerely, I feel very proud as a Nigerian that the new government has started building on what a level of achievement the previous government left. And dialogue is very, very important in governance, in decision-making, and in resolution of knotty issues. Now that the government is open to dialogue, the government is concerned about every little thing that can create problem. I think we should, as Nigerians, be happy and do everything to support this new government to see that, yes, we're in a very difficult time, but serious determination is there right from the government. So those of us who are the followership must also be ready to play our own part by supporting the government to let the country get out of most of these yearning challenges.
Has also stressed the need for synergy and sharing of intelligence among security agencies. Why is this a big issue in the country?
Well, in any human endeavor, there's bound to be any human interaction. There's bound to be some differences, both individual and collective. And at times, when it is more pronounced, it destroys the aim and the cohesion that is expected. Just as Mr. President has said, previously, from where we are coming from, we know there used to be unnecessary bickering and tension. But I want to give it to the present crop of leadership in the military and the security agencies that it has really improved. But that is not to say we are there already. It can also, by far improved. We'll continue to work together, continue to share information. The earlier the information is shared, the data is compiled, the earlier it is better to analyze and come up with real intelligence that could lead to proactive action rather than responding, so that some of these things can actually either be prevented or nipped in the bud before they escalate into wanton destruction of life and property.
All right, General, I would like you to be very specific now. What do you think the new administration needs to do to win the war against banditry and terrorism?
Thank you. I've said it before, building on what is already achieved. For one, let's start from our borders. No matter what we do inside, we just have to make sure our borders are secured. But we are not too lucky in this because the border is really very fast. We have a total land border of about 4,047 kilometers, while that of maritime is 853 kilometers. These 4,047 kilometers are shared. You see Nigeria with Cameroon with 1,690 kilometers of border, 1,497 kilometers with Niger, while we have with Benin 773 kilometers and 87 kilometers of borderline with Chad. With these statistics, it is not really easy to police the borders. Why? Our policing the border is still more of physical. So there's need for the new government to up the ante by employing technology to support the physical policing of borders. And aside from that, if we look into the renewed hope manifesto, in the security there is already there. There's need to increase the boot on ground. There's need to provide the resources needed, the training and equipment, including the way all those things are already encapsulated. And the steps being taken already within this 1 week of activities of the new government have pointed to the fact that the government is ready right from the onstart to take the bull by the horn. So I will suggest that we take the issue of our borders very seriously, because proliferation of small arms and light weapons is a menace. In fact, in West Africa, almost 70% of illegal arms are said to be domiciled inside Nigeria. I know there's a commission already by law and by function under the office of the National Security Advisor. They are doing so much also in this aspect. But to complement what they are doing, the borders have to really be policed properly using technology. We'll see what Syria was doing with its own border. So we can also look out and see what we can do to improve on that. When you look at our border with Chad, it's the shortest, but it's the most difficult, because those borders straddle the area they call Lake Chad Islands, which are called Tumbus. That terrain is super difficult. So those are the kind of places where technology is really, really required. And that will help also in other areas that are really very long, but technology, appropriate use of technology can complement and assist in policing the borders. That is one. And also sticking to the already laid out plan in terms of more boots, not only for the military, but for other security agencies that have one thing or the other to do with the border areas. So this is really very, very important. And we can also look at deeper than even the borders, even within, we also must improve on the technology for the security agencies as well as the military. As it is now, there are more powerful and technical drones that can actually assist in military and intelligence operations. All these are things that the new administration will need to look into very well. The next one I want to talk about is the media. Sincerely, media is very key to solving the problem of insurgency. If I can quote Margaret Thatcher, the former Prime Minister of UK from 1979 to 1990, during the hijack saga of Transworld Airline Flight 847, where 150 passengers were taken hostage in 1985. While addressing a group, she said, and I quote, "Media is very important to fight terrorism. If terrorists take action and the media is quiet, terrorism will end." We went further to say we must try to find...
All right, General, sadly we're out of time. I mean, this is a conversation that could go on, but sadly we're out of time. But of course, I know we will have this conversation some other time. Thank you very much, General. I've been speaking with retired Lieutenant General Lamidi Adeosun, former Chief of Policy and Plans of the Nigerian Army, tonight to discuss winning the war against banditry and terrorism. Thank you very much, General.
Thank you very much.